Westwell Zoning Board of Adjustment regular business meeting for June 15th, 2023. Calling to order. Terry, can you please read the opening statement?
Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, I hereby announce that adequate notice of this meeting, as required by said act, has been provided by adopting a schedule of regular meetings, monthly meetings for the year 2023, which schedule was posted on the Borough Hall Bulletin Board, mailed to the South Jersey newspapers, and filed with the Borough Clerk.
All right, please rise for salute to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have the roll call, please?
Mr. Ellis.
Here.
Mr. Moonen.
Here.
Ms. Caniola.
Here.
Mr. Harvey. Mr. Santoro is excused. Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Kerner.
Here.
Mr. Wyman. Here. Mr. Lopez.
Here.
Ms. Lafferty. Here. Mr. Casabun.
Here.
Ms. Adamson. Here.
Mr. Ellis, can you go over the postponements for this evening?
Well, certainly. Well, I was going to swear in the professionals now. You want postponements?
Yeah.
So for tonight's agenda, we have two items that are being postponed. ZB 23-05, that's independent freight, that is postponed. Deficiency in the notice, that will be re-noticed. I don't know if anybody's here for that, but you should receive further notice, and that will be for the July list, which is July 20, 2023, back here, 7 o'clock. And then ZB 23-09, Carmen Charles, also postponed, same issue, notice problem. That's also being postponed. You'll receive new notice. If in fact it's filed, we expect that they would file new notice in anticipation of the July 20, 2023 meeting date. That again would be back here, 7 o'clock. So if you're here on those two applications, you needn't be, and we'll see you next month, or if you so choose. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Ellis, can you swear in the professionals, please?
Well, indeed. So I ask each of you to raise your right hand, and do each of you swear affirm testimony about to give in each application tonight is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief?
Yes. Yes.
2 yeses, so thank you, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right. Everybody has a copy of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So be it. All right, everybody has a copy of the bills. Do I have a motion to pay all bills?
Motion to pay all bills.
Second motion. Thank you.
We have to vote.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So be it. Is there any incoming or outgoing correspondence?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a motion to open the public comments portion for non-agenda items only?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? So be it. Is there anybody from the public that has anything they would like to say that is not on the agenda for this evening? Okay.
Move to
Nobody?
close the meeting, or the
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Alright. First scheduled application, ZB 23-07, Vision 214 High, QOZB Inc., 214 East High Street, Block 33, Lot 8, Zone 11. Use variance to permit construction of a 3-story, 115,542 square foot self-storage facility.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me? You can hear me? Great. Thank you very much for your time this evening, gentlemen and ladies. My name is Kevin DeDuke. I'm the owner and principal attorney of Katie Law in Haddonfield, New Jersey. For the record, my last name is spelled D-I-D-U-C-H and pronounced DeDuke. So the first application for this evening is on behalf of my client Vision Stream, in this case Vision 214 High, QOZB LLC, with respect to the property that's identified as 214 East High Street within the borough. It's delineated as Block 33, Lot 81. This evening's application seeks approval for a use variance, in this instance to place a self-storage facility on the premises. I have this evening Mr. Eric Littlehouse from Consulting Engineering Services, as well as Ms. Leah Fury-Bruder, who will be providing both engineering and planning testimony respectively. If I could, Mr. Ellis, have my professionals sworn in for the purposes
Well,
of this
indeed,
application.
sure. I would ask those individuals, Ms. Fury-Bruder and Mr. Littlehouse, to raise your right hand, and do each of you swear affirm testimony you're about to give is true and correct, the best of your knowledge or information and belief?
I do.
Yes.
That was 2 yeses, so thank you, sir.
Two yeses, thank you, Mr. Ellis. Just for purposes of the record, Mr. Littlehouse and Ms. Fury-Bruder have appeared before this board before. I would submit them as experts to expedite the process. You having sworn them in, that's one thing. Are they accepted as experts in their respective fields?
Yes, they are.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
We welcome them back.
The first individual that I would call up for this evening is Mr. Littlehouse, who will provide testimony describing the property as well as identifying the basis of the relief that we're seeking, and then Ms. Fury-Bruder will provide testimony with respect to the municipal land use law and the variance relief that we're requesting as well. So, Mr. Littlehouse, if you could take it away, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before you have 2 exhibits. The one on the right is obviously a rendering, elevation view of the outside of the self-storage facility that we're proposing at 214 East High Street, which is known as Block 33, Lot 8. On the left is the rendered use variance plan that was submitted. This is a color version, I believe black and white was submitted as part of the application.
So, Council, may we have the rendering marked A1?
A1, I believe, would be appropriate.
And then the colorized site plan we can have as A2?
That's correct.
All right, well, thank you.
So the proposal for today is to construct a 3-story self-storage building totaling 115,572 square feet and containing approximately 800 storage units. The site is located on High Street, US 322. It has a very limited frontage at that location. A longer driveway kind of sets this back, this building back off of High Street, Delsey Drive, and the Borough Commons. The plan for circulation around this, the driveway located to the plan south of the building is a 2-way driveway. We have 5 striped out parking spaces. There are 2 dedicated loading areas. What we indicate loading areas would be somebody with the larger size U-Haul box truck can back actually into or up to the building and help them, if they're renting one of the larger unit spaces in it. Circulation is counterclockwise around the building on the 2 long sides, plan east and plan west. As you can see, is a garage door access from the ground floor. Access to the 2nd and 3rd floor would either be from the south of the building where the loading area is, and there's a separate doorway there, or from the north of the building. And there are 2 elevator corridors that will go up to the 2nd and 3rd floor for entrance into the building. In regards to the overall parking, we have 8 dedicated parking spaces, but as a self-storage, it's kind of parking all around the building. The drive aisle is at minimum 26 feet around the building. We don't have striped out spaces around the building, but if we were able to stripe them out 8 foot by 23 foot spaces and parallel spaces along the back, we would end up with roughly 28 parking spaces total, along with the 8 spaces up front and the 2 loading docks for utilization. In regards to overall parking, the ITE parking study calculates or looks at it in 2 different ways. One, what they refer to as a mini warehouse, but in parentheses typically referred to as self-storage facility. According to the ITE parking demand study, this size facility would require only 8 parking spaces total for this overall site. Somebody comes to the site, typically your peaks would be 5 o'clock on weekdays. You're either coming home from work, you're stopping, you're grabbing something you have in storage, taking it home, or late afternoon on a Saturday, where the peak demand is. But again, according to ITE study, peak demand for something along this would be a total of only 8 parking spaces would be required. As it's not fully designed yet, but we are showing areas for stormwater management. We have a small stormwater management basin out by our driveway entrance at Delsey Drive, a secondary one to the plan west of our building, and our larger basin to the plan east of our building. All 3 of those will be interconnected because the overall drainage and flow from the site flows from left to right on the plans. The building will be serviced by public water and sewer. It's located out in High Street. 3/4 of the building will be surrounded by a fence, 6 feet in height. The hours of operation being proposed, the office hours are from 9 to 6, and the access to the storage units themselves is from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So after hours, actually all hours, there'll be an access gate on both sides, one for entrance in. You gotta plug your keypad in, gate goes up, you go in, or at the doorway, and then when you leave, you have to hit the keypad for the gate to go up for you to leave.
And this is 7 days
Yes, 7 days a week. Correct.
for both of them, for
Yes.
the office and for the access, right?
Let me confirm on the office.
Well, you didn't say.
Yeah. Yeah, 7 days for the office also.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay.
So, as this is not a permitted use, so this would require a use variance. In addition, this requires a floor area ratio, a building height ratio, or a building height, which 30 feet is allowed, 40 is being proposed. And even with the parking along the outside, if we use the code required parking that's in your professional's letter, where 32 spaces are required, even with the parallel parking, we're still only providing 28, so I'd like to put on that would also be a variance per your code, even though there's no specific self-storage parking requirement in your code. That's utilizing office for the small office building and warehouse for the remaining portion where there would be typically employees. This site would only have 1 employee at a time, working in the office at those hours. And that's it, Kevin.
Okay, great. So just as a way of recapping, there are 4 essential variances that we're requesting this evening. The first of which would be the lot width variance, which is identified in your code as 107-11.
Could you raise your voice, please?
Oh, I apologize. I'll speak up a little bit. So we're first requesting a lot width variance. That's section 107-110.d6. The requirement is 200 feet. We are proposing 92 feet. The second variance that we are requesting is the floor area ratio variance. That's identified as section 107-110.d6 as well, whereas the requirement is 0.30, and we have a proposed 0.55. Okay. The third variance that we're requesting is a building height variance. That's also identified by the same code, section 110-d6. The requirement here being 30 feet, we are proposing 40 feet. And then last but not least would be, as my colleague described, a parking variance as well, identified in the borough's code as 107-54.k, whereas the requirement is to provide 32 spaces, of which we are proposing 8 spaces. To speak a little further on the reasoning behind the variances that are being requested, I would call Ms. Fury-Gruder up to provide her testimony with respect to each of those. She'll run through that testimony, and then we can address any questions that the board might have at that time. So, Leah, I'm going to step away.
Thank you.
Let you take it forward.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks. Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. Again, my name is Leah Fury-Bruder. I am a professional planner and a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I know you already accepted my qualifications. I was here a few times last year in 2022, testifying before you. So, in preparation for this hearing, I reviewed a number of documents just for background, and that included the 2020 Master Plan Reexamination Report and the 2021 Growth Management Report, Growth Management Plan that the borough has prepared, as well as the 2004 Master Plan, the 2021 zoning map, the applicable sections of the zoning code, the review letters that were prepared by your board's, your professional planner and engineer, and then of course all the application materials that were submitted, and I've also visited the site on a number of occasions. As has been described, we're here seeking variance relief to permit this 5.75 acre site, which is approximately 260 feet east of the Delsea Drive intersection with East High Street, to be developed with a 3-story self-storage facility with a 38,584 square foot building footprint. And it totals approximately 115,572 square feet, and then together with the other ancillary improvements. The property is undeveloped, and it's located in the I-1 Office Park and Light Industrial Park zoning district. And it is in fact surrounded to the northeast, west, and south by other properties in the same zoning district. However, the surrounding that zoning district has been in place for a number of years. I think the name of the industrial zoning has changed a few times, but it has been in a light industrial zoning district for some time. But the surrounding uses have, many of them have been been there for even longer. So there are residential uses, commercial service uses, and office uses in the vicinity. In accordance with section 107-110A, the I-1 zone permits offices, research facilities, manufacturing, fabrication, and assembly operations, emergency care and outpatient facilities, utilities, restaurants, auto and truck sales, daycare facilities, catering, and banquet halls. The zoning also indicates that acknowledges storage areas and warehousing as a conditional use. But the zone does not specifically permit self-storage facilities, so this is why we're requesting a D1 use variance to permit a use and principal structure in a district that's restricted against this use and principal structure. The proposed use is a low impact use compared to the permitted uses in the zone, which I just listed. And the building has been designed in a manner that's compatible with the surrounding area. It'll be set back at least 67 feet from the closest property line. And again, this isn't a site plan, use variance only, but we have a realistic concept plan prepared. It's about 67 feet from the closest property line, and it's set back 306 feet from the East High Street right-of-way. The proposed use will have minimal traffic impact, as has been explained by our engineer, on the existing roadway system. It's compatible with both the commercial intent of the zoning as well as the nearby residential and small business uses in the I-1 district. And it will provide a needed service to residents and small businesses in the area. The south side of the site and the south on the plan is to the right. The driveway is to the north. So the south side of the site is constrained by freshwater wetlands, which are, you can see there, that area is being preserved on the site. In addition to the use variance, which is the D1 variance, there are a few other variances that are requested to enable the proposed use on the site. Mr. Duduque just went over them, but I'm sorry, I have to adjust them a little bit, just to clarify a couple points. The floor area ratio is of course a D4 variance, and in accordance with section 107-110D6, the permitted floor area for a site larger than 80,000 square feet, which the site is 200 and something thousand square feet, is 0.30. This would allow a maximum of 75,231 square feet of floor area, and the proposed building is 3 stories and is proposed to be a total of 115,572. So this is a ratio of 0.46. It was mentioned in the planner's review letter that it's 0.55, but I think that, and I think that was because it was on our plan that way. Anyway, the division was like reversed. It's 0.46, where 0.3 is required.
Is that now in agreement? Was that an infelicitous thing where it came up as 0.55, Ms. Adamson? Is that you on the same page?
I believe it's on the plan.
Yeah.
Well, no, I get all that, but I mean, notwithstanding the remark about being on the plans, are you on the same page as regards 0.46 for the?
I'm gonna just do a quick calculation.
Nope.
Yeah,
Nope.
that's great. So,
I apologize for interrupting. I just
okay,
thought that might have
that's
been
okay.
easy.
I agree, we should make sure we know what it is. The height, was mentioned, that's a D6 variance. That is a request to have a 40-foot building where, 30 feet are allowed. And then the others were the lot width. Lot width is of course measured at the building setback, and the setback requirement for this zone is 50 feet. So 50 feet back from High Street, the width is pretty narrow because we basically have a flag lot. So it's only 92 feet there. That's just an existing condition. The building does widen at about 180 feet back is where it widens out. And then the parking, I also wanted to adjust, per my calculations, which are what the borough doesn't have a standard for mini storage. And the applicant's engineer did outline what is required per ITE, and that is what's being provided and then some. But the code provides that there is one parking space per 200 square feet of office. So we have 900 square feet of office, so that's round up, that's 5 parking spaces. And then 1 per 5,000 square feet of warehouse space, and so in total that's 28. So I believe maybe Ms. Adamson, you could check that out when you get a second too, just to make sure we're in agreement, but I believe 28 are required per the code. And we have 8 formal parking spaces and then 20 parking spaces that are practical parking spaces around the facility where customers will park when they're utilizing the building. So there are demonstrable practical reasons for each of these variances that have to do with the size, shape, and constraints on the lot and the particular use that's being proposed. The floor area ratio that is permitted assumes that larger expanses of parking would be required for the permitted uses in the zone. So all the other uses that are permitted, a restaurant, a banquet facility, a outpatient medical facility, they all require significantly more parking. And so therefore they would need a smaller building footprint in order to also accommodate the parking and then setbacks and everything. This use, on the other hand, doesn't require as much parking, and we believe that therefore the additional floor area can be accommodated on the site. And this is evidenced by the fact that the site does not exceed the impervious cover requirement that is permitted on the site. The site is also a flag lot and is lined by other commercially zoned properties along High Street and Delsey Drive. So the proposed building is set back 6 times the required front yard setback of 50 feet, and this mitigates the impact of the building height from the street. The lot width variance is an existing condition, which results from the shape of the lot. The site does widen significantly, around 180 feet back from East High Street. And then the parking needs are specific to this use, and they make sense given the function and operation of the facility. Though it's not permitted in a specific location, we do believe that this proposal for self-storage is ideal for this location and appropriate to the area, and that it's generally consistent with the overall intent of the borough's master plan and zoning. The site has proved difficult to develop. There have been past proposals that have not been realized on the site, and the applicant believes that this proposed use is ideal for this challenged site. The self-storage facility is compatible with the location, and it can be developed and operated in harmony with the existing uses in the area. And this proposal will make efficient use of a currently underutilized property. It'll make some high-quality storage space available for local residents and local businesses, and it won't have any detrimental impact around surrounding properties because it is a low-impact use. As you know, in considering an application for a D variance, the zoning board needs to consider the positive and the negative criteria. For the positive criteria, we must prove to your satisfaction that the site is particularly suited to the proposed use and the proposed structures, and that special reasons exist for the grant of the variance, and special reasons are defined by the purposes of zoning. We believe that this proposal will promote the general welfare and advance the purposes of municipal land use law, as well as the borough's master plan and zoning ordinances. And then as to the negative criteria, we need to demonstrate that there won't be any substantial detriment to the public good. That is, that it won't impair the character of the neighborhood, that it won't have a substantially detrimental impact on the surrounding properties, and that the variance will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the master plan and zoning. So before specifically addressing the positive criteria, just a couple of other comments. The purpose of the I-1 Office Park and in Light Industrial Park District as set forth in section 107-110 of the zoning code is, quote, to establish an area where small industries and office-oriented businesses not involved in retail sales may be located. It will also provide employment in areas other than manufacturing and retail services. The I-1 district is near several residential neighborhoods and adjacent to Delsey Drive and has rail access. Portions of the district are located where large undeveloped parcels now exist. So, in light of land use changes and market changes that have taken place in the area since the I-1 zoning was initially adopted in the 1980s, and considering the location and the shape of this particular site, I really believe that from a planning standpoint, this proposed use is consistent with the intent of the zoning district, and that the proposed use suits the site itself. The zone permits, as we had mentioned, office buildings, research, manufacturing, fabrication, emergency care, motels, restaurants, auto and truck sales, and this use is a low impact use, and it really doesn't rely on high visibility from the roadways as some of these other uses would, to ensure its success. So that's one of the reasons that this site is particularly suited to this commercial use. This specific site is not ideal for many of the permitted uses because its location is behind other properties that have the roadway frontage. There are a limited number of uses that require brick and mortar facilities and that don't require that kind of high visibility for pass-by traffic. Storage facilities are one of those. So the particular suitability of this site has to do with the specific location of the property, the physical characteristics of the property, and how the location and characteristics relate to the purposes of zoning and the borough's overall vision. The approval of this variance will enable this commercial property to be put to productive use and developed in a manner that is compatible with and complementary to the surrounding area. And the borough has already determined, by virtue of this office, park, and light industrial zoning, that the site is appropriate for commercial use. We're just talking about what type of use that is. From a zoning standpoint, self-storage facilities are often included with light industrial uses, but they're also akin to a personal service or a business service use. The proposed use is fitted to this location because of this configuration where it's situated behind other properties. Without variance relief, development of this site is inhibited and the potential of the site will not be realized. There is a demand for this use in the area, and the use will be centrally located to many residences and businesses that may be able to take advantage of it. So as to the special reasons in municipal land use law, the proposal advances section 2A of the municipal land use law, encouraging municipal action to guide the appropriate use and development of all lands in the state in a manner that will promote the public health, safety, and general welfare. This proposal promotes the general welfare by providing an appropriate use in a location that is suitable for the use. The grant of the use variance will promote the general welfare by enabling an efficient use of land in a suitable location. It has access to the necessary infrastructure such as water, sewer, and roads, and it's compatible with other uses in the area. It also will not produce any noise or pollution. The lighting will be limited to what is needed for site safety. Traffic will be light, especially during the week, and the site will be secured and monitored. Then also section 2D, to ensure that the development of individual municipalities does not conflict with the development and general welfare of neighboring municipalities, the county, and the state as a whole. So this site is within Planning Area 1 on the state plan policy map, which is the metropolitan planning area, where smart and sensible infill growth and development are encouraged. And as effective planning is encouraged that takes advantage of regional assets and economic growth of regional importance. Also section 2G, to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of uses, both public and private, according to their respective environmental requirements and meet the needs of New Jersey citizens. The borough has districts that conditionally permit warehousing and storage, but they're primarily intended to accommodate light industrial type uses, like manufacturing, warehousing, and wholesaling, contractors' yards, and these things are actually permitted on this site. Self-storage facilities are not permitted in any district in the borough. So this use, we believe, is appropriate for this site. It just wasn't contemplated when the zoning was created. This use is at a scale that serves the residential and small business population and provides convenient access, and it won't measurably impact any of the surrounding properties. And of course, in developing master plan and zoning regulations, it's nearly impossible for a municipality to anticipate every potential scenario that may evolve over time. So this is that's what variances are for. This is an opportunity to consider a site that may be appropriate for this use. And then lastly, to promote a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement, that's 2I. This proposal will enable the construction of a new building on this challenged commercial lot. As shown on the renderings, I believe it was A2, the building design will have clean lines and neutral tones, and it will not inhibit the use of the properties fronting along High Street and Delsey Drive. And then as to the master plan and the zoning, not only will the proposed use not impair the intent and purpose of the master plan and zoning ordinance, but it will advance some of the goals and objectives in the master plan. The 2004 master plan set forth 9 overall community goals, and each of those were reinforced with the subsequent master plan re-examination reports. The borough has been proactive with its redevelopment planning efforts in a number of areas in town, and this proposal will basically enable an efficient development through private initiative, and it doesn't require the public intervention of a redevelopment planning effort. And this will provide a use that's responsive to market demand, as is recommended in the master plan, without having a detrimental impact on any of the master plan's goals. As to the negative criteria, we don't believe there will be any substantial detriment to the public good resulting from this proposal. There won't be a substantially detrimental impact on surrounding properties. We understand that there are some drainage concerns by surrounding properties, but of course when the site is designed, well, of course, first of all, the wetland areas will be preserved, so they'll continue to carry out their natural function. And then when the stormwater is designed, it'll not only handle all the stormwater on the site, but it'll likely improve stormwater management in the area. So we know that is one concern of surrounding property owners, but we believe that the site, when designed, will actually, not only will it not be detrimental, but it may have an improving effect. The site is set back from High Street and Delsey Drive in a manner that's buffered by those roadways, the intervening properties, and the site can be developed with this use without undermining the borough's planning objectives. Neither the requested variances or the proposal overall will undermine the policies, goals, or objectives, or the overall intent of the land use plan, and it will enable efficient use of space that is intended in the master plan and the zoning for commercial development. So weighed against the positive impacts of the proposal, we believe that any potentially detrimental impacts are negligible, and that the site is suited for the proposed use and will enhance the overall character of the area. That's all I have. Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We did receive review letters from Ms. Adamson, as well as a technical review letter from Mr. Cosmoon. So if they have any questions or would like to go through the items on their agenda, we certainly can do that. I do thank Ms. Bruder for the correction on the description given originally for the floor area ratio variance. I would ask if Ms. Adamson could clarify for us, to the best of her ability, what that was, just so we...
Yes, I want to confirm something. As part of your submission, you did not submit a conceptual plan, correct? Because on the conceptual plan, there's some differing floor area for the building.
Yeah.
So what exactly is the floor, the total floor area for the 3 stories is the total floor area, including the office space, 115,572 square feet, including the office space.
Including the office space, that's correct.
Okay, it is, thank you, that's all I needed.
That clear? Okay, we're good?
Yes, then you're correct, in your calculation, it's 0.46.
Okay, very good.
Very good.
Excellent.
Amen.
Very well. We would submit to the board for purposes of the next steps, but I guess I would turn to Ms. Adamson for additional comments or questions if she has any, and then and then we have our professionals available to.
Mr. Chair, council is raring to go, so.
It's
where should we go
entirely up
next?
to you, but I'm open
Yeah,
for
I'm-
questions from the board or questions.
I do have one question.
Certainly.
What type of sign, if any, are you putting up?
What type of signage you said?
Or are you just using the signage on the building?
The si-
Can I answer? I know the answer.
No, she knows the answer.
There you go. There you
No guessing.
I am happy, Ms. Bruder can correct me all night long.
There is a sign shown on the rendering. However, given the setback, we have discussed that we don't really think that sign is necessary.
Mhm.
What we do think is necessary is a monument sign by the access road. And so that would be submitted at site plan, but it would be a monument style ground freestanding sign.
And the sign would remain consistent with the ordinance in accordance with your standards in play, so.
Anybody else have any questions?
Not at the moment. I got a quick question.
Go ahead.
What's the illumination around the building gonna be, at night if it's surrounded by residential properties at this point?
It's my understanding, and Mr. Littlehouse can speak further to this, the illumination is a component of the site plan application that we'll be submitting. In the immediate, I can tell you that it will be consistent with as little detrimental impact to the neighboring areas as possible. Most of those lights, you can design them to reflect pretty much in as far as you can and keep that light reflecting out, and we'll be going with the highest and best availability for that.
Will the lights run 24 hours a day or just
No,
after dark or?
they would be timed, for illuminating at the necessary points of the day, yes, it would be timed night and day.
I guess let me correct that.
Oh, please.
Some of the lights will remain on for security purposes,
Mhm.
but not full illumination.
I believe she was, well, we're good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Cosman, you have anything?
Mr. Chairman, I can just touch on a few things. Most of what was in my letter was addressed in the testimony. I wanted to ask about the loading docks. We did hear that would just be for tenants with a bigger truck, like a U-Haul, and the parking. I did want to ask about at any point of future site plan trash storage. How is the trash maintained at this property, these kinds of properties?
So the trash is gonna be, sort of trash in and trash out in terms of the folks who are working there. It's not gonna be a weekly pickup. There can be if necessary. In terms of the units, I mean, the unit owners are not expected to dispose or not permitted to dispose of any trash on site. But Mr. Littlehouse can also, elaborate on that further.
Yeah, and in the lease, for all, they sign, it's basically carry in, carry out. You put it in your unit, you take it out of your unit. So the majority of the trash that's gonna be coming out is gonna be out of the 900 square foot, office area, simple office trash. The applicant at the time will hire an individual hauler to probably pick up, simple, trash cans, recycling bin out of Delsey Drive.
So are you saying you have no on-site dumpster for somebody who has a unit and wants to get rid of?
Yeah, that's correct, cause if we
That's
have an
correct.
outside dumpster, then it's gonna be
loaded.
tossed in their couch and their
Yeah.
refrigerator and all that.
I'm just
stuff.
asking.
Specifically in their lease, it's indicated, they bring it in, they'll take it out with them.
And the employees that are posted there, as well as the security system will be available to monitor that as well, just to ensure that nothing is left behind. in that vehicle.
That was all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Ms. Adamson, you have anything else?
I have some questions.
Okay.
As far as the size of the building and the height, did you give testimony as to the height variance we're increasing from 30 to 40, and the size of the building is such that, it's larger than what's allowed by the zone. Ms. Berry, did you give testimony on the FAR specifically and the height specifically? I heard a lot of testimony about the use.
Yeah, and the height, the height and the FAR are interconnected. And they have a few things that I did indicate. One, relative to the height, the required front yard setback is 50 feet from the roadway, and the building is set back 300 feet from the roadway, so that, and the fact that it's surrounded by other uses, it'll mitigate the impact and the visual impact of the site, of the building. Additionally, the site complies with the impervious coverage ratio. So we have a larger floor area, but we have a smaller parking area. So overall, it's a balance, and I think the fact that we're not exceeding the impervious coverage demonstrates that the site can accommodate the amount of floor area that's shown on the site.
As far as buffering this site from the adjacent properties, the height of the building is 45 feet versus the existing heights of the residential dwellings are 1 to 2 story. What's your testimony?
It's 40, not 45.
40 feet, thank you.
40 is the max.
Yes. What's your testimony as far as the visual impact of the height of this building as opposed to the height of the existing buildings in the surrounding area?
Well, I don't know from a planning standpoint, my position generally is that the height of a building is not an automatic negative. It depends how you're coming at it. But often the concern about a taller building adjacent to a residence is that the windows of the taller building are gonna look down onto the residential property. In this case, it's not an occupied building, so you don't have that concern that, someone's looking out the window into the yard or into the bedroom of a nearby residential unit. So that's one thing. I don't think there's an impact from that standpoint. Yes, the people who live there will see it, and there is no hiding it. So.
And is there a way to provide additional buffering on the left side or the west side? Right now, you're preserving about 30 feet of trees from what I can, I'm looking for a dimension on the plan, but I don't believe that I have one.
Mr. Littlehouse is attempting, and he's gonna give us sort of a rougher estimate of the distance between the building itself and the nearest residence, to give you a better idea.
Not the building, we wanna know what the width of the remaining trees will be on the west side. So basically the dimension from what wooded area is going to remain to act as a buffer or to also act as a
So that
drainage, to also facilitate drainage, as it currently does. We're concerned with the drainage in the area as well. Considering,
the west side
there's a nearby resident.
along the entrance driveway you indicate here.
On the left side, the west side, I understand that, from discussions at the workshop, that there's some drainage issues and we're trying to preserve as many trees on that left side, west side of the 3-story storage building. I'd like to know how many trees that are going, what's the width of the remaining wooded area that will remain? How many are you taking out to build this site? Is it 30 feet, am I correct?
That we're taking out or remaining? I'm
That
sorry.
will remain of the wooded area to the west,
It's me to,
the east, I'm sorry,
Okay,
the
all right.
east of the 3-story,
oh no, that's
The self-storage building.
It's like 60 feet of trees that we're seeing in there.
okay,
So
there is no dimension, that's
Yeah,
why.
the curb line, from the curb line to the property line is 67 feet. And then obviously when we put the curb in, there's gonna be a little bit of grading, so, right around 60 feet of trees are gonna remain, along the, common property with the Borough Commons, property.
Excellent. that's what I was looking to hear. I have no dimensions, so thank you for that.
Yep.
Just going through the letters, so you're stating that, the required parking is not 32? What was your testimony, Leah, as far as the parking? There seems to be some discrepancy
Well, I don't
between.
know if, it could be that because you had a different building dimension for the FAR, that resulted in a different calculation
Yes,
for the parking
exactly.
as well. So,
Yes.
and I think the reason was that when we came in for a workshop meeting, there was initial concept and then the building shrank.
Correct.
So, based on the 115,000 something square feet, the total parking required is 28.
Is 28,
Yeah.
okay. And so are you requesting that variance tonight, or are you waiting for the site plan for the parking? I would assume you're waiting for the
Depends if we
site
get
plan.
it or not. In reality, we were requesting it with tonight's application.
And
You
have
called
you-
out 4 variances. I
We
presume
did.
that's why you called them out.
Yes, that's correct.
And have you submitted any, you referenced a study, some information from the parking manual, the ITE manual?
Yeah, the ITE parking.
Yeah, did you
manual.
submit that to
I
our
don't
office
think
or to
it was part of the
Mr.
application,
Costello?
but we can,
That would just be.
Mr. Costello and I had spoke about it earlier this afternoon, and we had taken a look at it, also, but he had requested to confirm the number of units, and now that we have that, confirmed from the architect, like I said, of, 800 units for this. Part of, you can do it by units or you can do it by square feet, and either way, eight was the required per ITE, which is significantly below 28. But I also had indicated that the parking around the building, those additional parking and the loading areas include all that in the parking, and I ended up with 28 total, so, if we're including those spaces, if we're not allowed to include those because they're not striped out spaces, then we're asking for the variance.
Okay, most of my remaining issues are site plan issues. They deal with buffering, trees. They do belong with the site plan, but my largest issue was buffering on the east side of the building, which, for the record, I'm just gonna state that you plan to preserve at least 60-foot width of, wooded area from the property line to the curb line, of the drive aisle. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have one question.
Certainly.
Because of the height of the building, and since there is residential, that will not affect anyone's solar panel usage or purchase?
No, we don't anticipate that would be. That'd be, considering the height distance between the building and the residences themselves, I don't anticipate that it would cover their shade that way.
Thank you.
Well, panels would have a southern exposure, right?
Yes.
So when you're looking at what you're looking at, I don't think Mr. Littlehouse could probably answer that more effectively.
Yeah, south is planned right, that's over towards where Ascenda and their back parking lot is. There's no really residential over there, if anything's facing that, our building.
Right.
The ones that would cast if it was significantly taller, but the buildings that face on High Street 322, but there's a significant separation,
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't believe there's anything further from us, but Mr. Chairman, members of the board?
Anything else from the board?
I'd like to move that we have the, nope, okay, I won't move anything.
Public?
I'd like to, open this up to the public. Do I have a motion to open it to the public?
I would move that we open the meeting to the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So be it. Is there anybody from the public that would like to come forward and speak on this agenda item?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Jeff Brennan. I'm an attorney admitted to practice in the state of New Jersey. I represent the Borough Commons Homeowners Association, which, if you look at A2, is the community of residences just to the, I guess, east of the subject property. It's our position that the applicant hasn't even come close to satisfying the burden of proof that's required for the relief that's been requested. But in addition to that, we believe that there's a number of practical reasons why this is just a terrible idea. Before I get into that, though, I do have a couple of procedural issues to raise. Number one, I think the notice was defective and the board does not have jurisdiction to consider this application. If you look in the notice, the use variance is called out, but there's no reference to either the floor area ratio variance or the height variance. So for that reason alone, I think the board has to deny the application. Secondly, as part of the application submission materials, there was no mention of the 10% owners of the LLC, which is the applicant. And that is an absolute requirement under Section 48 of the Municipal Land Use Law. So again, without even getting into the substantive merits of the application, I think it has to be denied.
Well, it doesn't have to be denied, but you raise jurisdiction as an issue, which is always an issue. In fact, is a preeminent issue. I had a little bit of a conversation about that very thing not very long ago. But for the benefit of everyone here, I think we should hear from the applicant's attorney about how he wants to respond about the jurisdictional issue. Because we may well be coming back, and Mr. Dudish, can
Yeah,
we
certainly.
do that? So listen, very simply, been around the block. You heard what Mr. Brennan said. Mr. Brennan, very good lawyer, a good colleague of yours, no doubt. But raises a problematic issue if in fact he's correct on the jurisdictional side. So if you need a couple of minutes to ponder it, you can make that request to the chairman. If you want to say something else,
Certainly,
I wanted to get
I
you
don't-
back in the loop.
Yeah, I don't think there's much pontification that needs to be done with respect to those two issues, although I do respect Mr. Brennan's position. Our notice that was given to all residents identifies the primary basis of the application and also requests for relief for any and all variances necessary.
But
for
he
the
is
application.
right on the use. You gotta call out the use variance.
The use variance is identified in the notices that we submitted.
I don't think the height was called, or now the Florida area I think may have resolved when there was some little back and forth between Ms.
No,
Adam.
they still exceed it. They still exceed the floor area ratio. It's 0.3 is required, 0.46 is what they're proposing.
Just a moment. forgive me.
Take your time.
With our publication here as well.
Well, you know, it's very, very difficult to do what you're doing. It's the worst place to be.
It
So
is.
respectfully, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that you ask for a 5-minute recess. Let's be accommodating.
Certainly. I appreciate that.
All right, let's take a 10-minute recess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
See, swap the trees. It would go out of your grass and everything. 60-foot trees.
Like I could,
Yeah.
a restaurant.
Yes.
They can't get a lot more traffic.
Oh.
Like initially when it first opened,
I mean,
but then once it settled down.
Well, I wasn't gonna go there. I was gonna try to surprise you. Like, there she goes, spoiling my surprise. But no, that's why I was. Mm-hmm. It's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes you can't so much go over sideways, but by and large, we raise holidays. Honestly, this would be about 3 to 5 hours. Maybe 2 to 4 minutes.
This is upside down, and this is all like water, yeah. And, the thing is, the people haven't been real good about.
There's a difference between doing something and doing something right. So in the interest of 110% transparency, which I think I've had this conversation with this board once or twice before, my client is undoubtedly committed to 110% transparency. So we would like an opportunity to renotice this application and carry it to next month's meeting with an opportunity. What's really good about that, in my opinion, folks, is that I can now speak to Mr. Brennan, knowing his involvement, and see if we can't resolve some of the other issues that are in play.
Of course, and Mr. Chairman, if I may, the jurisdictional issue is a hard, bright line issue. Counsel is most capable, as is the objectant's counsel. And honestly, if you guys came to a different conclusion, I'd be directing my board not to hear it, because you made the right call for the right reasons. So, we'll be here,
Understood.
July
July
20th.
20th.
July 20th.
So you're gonna notice, do a publication, And that'll be a beautiful thing, and you also have the benefit of talking to Mr. Brennan
Exactly,
in the
that's
interim.
it.
And you ironed out a
Totally.
couple of things here, so you'll
Totally.
have a more meaningful conversation perhaps,
Totally.
or at least a more precise one.
I agree.
So-
Is that just for this one or is it for this one and
So,
next one?
one thing at a time. So this is an application that's presently before the board. Mr. Chairman, you take it over, and then we'll get to Mr. Rudich again in a second, as it happens. So,
Everybody?
motion to
Motion
allow the
Motion
adjournment
to allow the adjournment until the following.
and renotice.
So
And
moved.
Just a voice vote.
Roll call? I'd rather do a roll
Yeah,
call.
that's great, sure.
Mr. Harvey? Mr. Perner? Mr. Smith? Ms. Lafferty? Mr. Lopez?
Four.
Ms. Wyman? Ms. Camiola?
4.
And Mr. Moody?
4. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Alright. Next up, ZB 23-11. Vision Aurora LLC, 555 Aurora Road, block 196.01, lot 2. We're on the OP zone. Preliminary and final site plan approval for construction of a 3-story, 75,000 square foot self-storage facility.
Here we go again. So this one is the other.
Back again.
Back again, yes. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, Kevin Duduc of Katie Law, spelled K-E-V-I-N, D-I-D-U-C-H, and pronounced Duduc. So as a preliminary matter, we're gonna repeat the verse the same as the first. It's come to my attention, prior to tonight's hearing, just a couple of minutes prior to, that there was an issue raised by the, board's professional, Ms. Adamson, that has given us reason to believe that an additional variance request is required, for which our notice does not include. So, in the interest of, again, doing it right, we would like permission from the board to carry this to next month's application, that being on the 20th, for which we will renotice and communicate, with Ms. Adamson again to clarify the basis of that additional variance request, so. Rather than go through the dog and pony show, I'd rather
No,
just
no,
that's fine.
get it done the right way.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Harvey? Mr. Perner? Mr. Smith?
4.
Ms. Lafferty?
4.
Mr. Lopez?
4.
Ms. Wyman? Ms. Camiola?
4.
And Mr. Moody?
4.
Thank you very
See you
much.
next
Will.
Thank you, council. Good to see you. See you next
You
month.
too, take care.
Alright, anything from the workshop committee?
I had it a little while ago, but.
Oh, okay.
Okay, two different groups were before the joint zoning and planning on Tuesday. One of them was D. Simone Construction, proposed office conversion of a building that has been the gas company, a bank. It's near Matt Blatt.
Right.
Yeah, on that side.
A lot of
It's been a lot of things. And,
The one that looks like a house.
No, that's not that one.
no, it's been medical building
Oh,
for,
yeah,
okay?
on the corner.
I know one of those things that it's been, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And it has the problem that the property,
yeah.
it goes down because that's where the bank drive-throughs used to be down. That came before the group and, you know, it's a general speaking, and they'll be back. And the other is the South Jersey Investments, and my mind is a blank. They wanna help me out here. What was the South Jersey, I thought I wrote it down, and they don't
They
have
wanna
it.
put Diane, I can help you. They wanna
Thank you.
put- They wanna put an addition onto a non-conforming use. It's a
Oh,
house.
the house with the 8,000, okay, thank you. I've gone through so many of these. This house off of Delsey Drive, has a huge concrete pad on the back of it. And the owner wants to, redesign the house so that it would hold 14 people, 14 college students. He said they would each have their own room with a desk, and then there would be what he called a double kitchen, so that they could cook and everything. And 2 of the rooms would be in the basement. And
No,
I-
no, no.
You weren't the first one that said that.
No.
And there's the parking is kind of interesting because, the 14 people are gonna have a car, and occasionally they have a guest, and, I mean, it's turning this great big platform into a huge parking lot. So it's still, this is all still.
Little editorialization there.
There's
I know.
no, there's no action. The meeting is a discussionary meeting where people bring up in a different.
Discussion. Okay,
So it's
still
not,
discussion
it's
stage.
not, they don't present like, we're gonna do this variance, and we're gonna do the, it's just, it's more of a, if we did that, would we have to do this and that kind
It's
of
like a
thing.
think tank.
Huh?
It's like a think tank.
No, I wouldn't,
I wouldn't go that far.
I wouldn't go that
I
far.
wouldn't go that far.
No. It's just a gentle talk.
Okay. Mr. Alice, you have a report for us?
Well, certainly, I'll remind you that, that very active site known as Swab Enterprises, we've got an amended site plan. They were here obviously recently, and, the board saw fit to approve essentially the amended, preliminary and final site plan with some use variance relief, because they got 2 uses, remember, with the parking, and also some bulk variance relief. So we have that resolution for your consideration and memorialization, Mr. Chair and members.
All right, do I have a motion on resolution 23-13, Swab Enterprise amended site plan approval?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
No, that's a roll
Roll
call.
That's
call.
a roll call.
Roll call.
Mr.
It's either roll call or scores.
Mr. Perner?
Put that on the
Mr.
agenda.
Santor? Oh, I'm sorry, he's not here. Mr. Smith?
4.
Ms. Lafferty? Correct, you weren't here.
Correct.
Mr. Lopez?
Abstain.
You weren't, okay.
I don't even know what this is.
So this is the Chick-fil-A.
Oh.
Just
You were here.
I should have said Chick-fil-A.
You were here.
So
No.
you're gonna deny it.
Yeah.
Ms. Wyman?
Well, no.
Or-
You-
Oh,
well,
just
he's
for-
just,
No,
this
he's
is
voting
just
for
a
the
memorialization,
resolution.
just
Formality, yeah,
memorializing the
memorialization.
resolution. I mean,
Well, he shook his head no, so.
you really are
Yeah,
that
my
annoyed,
fault,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
vote no, but it's just.
Yeah, 4 for that, but yeah. Sorry.
As long
My
as
fault, I didn't
you're here-
recognize
as long
Swab,
as
should
you're
have said
here for
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, you have to say Chick-fil-A.
Ms. Wyman?
4.
Ms. Camiola?
4.
And Mr. Noonan?
4. All right, we have any old business? Any new business? Do I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Opposed?
Just wanna remind everybody to keep your packets, because they will be coming back, so you will not be getting any additional information, other
Oh,
than
right.
the,
The
independent.
notices,
Right.
and we'll talk about that. You hit me that, hit me
Okay.
the notice or whatever. And Jeff Brennan is
Thank you very
actually,
much for everybody for coming, and we'll see everybody next month.
well, so,
You donate?